Hi, Jennifer Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me on the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you could make it on, and I'm so glad we could find a time that works for us both, because you're based in the US, aren't you? And I'm in the UK. So thanks so much for generously donating your time to come and chat to us all today,
Yeah,
which
of
is
course.
great.
I'm excited to be here.
I do love the setting that you've got there. You can see that you're a musician with your banner up and your piano, and it just looks great. It's like a proper studio setup.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my studio where well, you can't see it, but I have 3 screens and my computer over here. And then I have 2 keyboards, and this is where I do a lot of my production and orchestration and recording work out here. And then in the house, is my piano, and that's where I usually sit and compose.
Yeah. With 3 screens, that's quite a lot. Does it look a little bit like the Starship Enterprise?
It does. And center here. It's because I do a lot of video editing too, and so I have different screens for different things. But yeah. And this is all new. I just upgraded my computer system a couple of months ago, and so it's just it's a lot of techie stuff that I'm still trying to get worked out, but I'm excited.
Now, you see, that would scare the life out of me, because as I'm sure I've said to you before, technology has decided it does not want to be my friend. So I've tried to get on and build a friendship with this technology, but it just goes, oh no, I'm not interested, thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I quite admire you taking on that big challenge, but why did you need to upgrade? Was there specific stuff that you were trying to do that you couldn't do with your previous equipment?
Yeah, so my studio computer that I just upgraded from, I'd had since 2011. So in computer world, that's like a huge dinosaur. So it was very old and very outdated. And when I'm orchestrating and producing, I have a lot of virtual libraries that I use and a lot of technology software, and it just bogs it down. Also, the video editing, every time I would try to edit like a music video or something, my video card would freak out. And yeah, it was just time to upgrade, and a lot of what I do as an instrumentalist has to do with a lot of technology software, and so it was really important to get that upgrade. So I'm excited. I actually haven't started using all of everything that I upgraded to, but I have some projects I'm working on that I'm excited to test everything out. It's very exciting. I turn into a total nerd.
I think you need to be quite nerdy in that respect when you're doing stuff like that, and it's good that you've invested in things that you haven't quite used yet, because it gives you room to grow. And I'm sure there's so many technical things out there that you can get hold of now. There's so many samples and stuff like that, but you're so clever that you play a few different instruments, don't you? It's violin and piano. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. So when I'm working on songs, I work within a lot of orchestration softwares, and on my last few albums, I recorded the orchestra live, but there's whole other steps that come before recording live, and that's laying down all of the orchestra with the virtual software first. And that's how we get all the different parts, and then we transcribe it into sheet music, and then go in and record. So yeah, it's all part of that whole process, which is very fun and exciting, because you can create so many sounds, and a lot of inspiration comes from that whole working process.
I so admire you with all of that. I did harmony at uni as part of the music part of my degree, but that's kind of as far as it went with me, because then I went off and did the whole China thing. But I loved harmony. I really found it fascinating, but mainly what we were focused on was 4-part harmony and Bach chorales. Whereas to do a whole orchestra and to have to know the intricacies of each instrument in order to write a part for it, there's so much knowledge there. And you can really hear the knowledge that you've got when you listen to your recordings, like The Fire Within, holy moly, blew me away.
Oh, well,
I love it.
Thank you so much. I can't take the credit for the orchestration on that album. That was by Glenn Gabriel, and he's just amazing. It's so fun to work with him. But yeah, the whole process. So I played violin in different orchestras growing up, and so when you're sitting in the middle of an orchestra, you know your parts and which parts play what, and you get a really good grasp for who's doing what, and that really helped. Obviously, I haven't been professionally trained to orchestrate or do this, but it's just something you learn as you go. And also with these virtual libraries, they're really handy, because most of them they won't allow you to use the instruments not in the range. So for example, if you're using a violin patch, it's not going to let you play something too low or too high that the violin can't do in real life. Although I have had situations where we've gone into the studio to record with live instruments and they're like, I can't play this. And we're like, why? The virtual library said you could. And they're like, this is way too low for my range. I can't do it. And so like a lot of times in the studio, we're like, okay, let's change this an octave. Let's like on the go, just changing things so that it works for the players too.
Wow, you've got to be so adaptable in situations like that. Did anything like that happen when you came over to, because I know you came over to England to work with an
Yeah.
orchestra in Abbey Road. Oh my goodness gracious me. That is just such a cool, amazing experience and it sounds incredible. But did you have any experiences like that when you were in Abbey Road, having to cope with changing things at the last minute?
No, thankfully everything with the strings was great. We did have a section where actually the sheet music was missing a line. And so at the last minute, the copyist that was there, Tristan Noon, he and I just on the side opened up his laptop with Sibelius and he like super fast within like 5 minutes, added the parts in by ear, had them all printed out for the players within like 10 minutes. And it was amazing. I'm like, this would have taken me hours to do.
Sounds like this person has superpowers.
Yeah, I think they're just used to doing that so much that it's just very fast and easy for them. But no, it was when, so we recorded brass and woodwinds in Seattle, and it was when we were doing the brass, the French horns and trombones, they were, I think we had everything an octave too low or something, and they had a really, they were really struggling. They're like, can we please move this up an octave? And I'm like, yes, please do. So that was interesting.
Wow. Can you tell me more about what it was like at Abbey Road? Because I probably have to ask you a little bit of a naughty question. But did you steal a mug?
Oh my goodness. So they gave us mugs to use while we were in the studio, but no, I went and bought my own mug afterwards. Oh, I have it right here. Hold on.
Oh, great.
This little Abbey Road mug.
Yes.
I feel like Vanna White. Yes. So yeah, they after I recorded, they're like, hurry and go to the shop before it closes, and they gave me a nice client discount, and so I went over there and I just bought like a bunch of stuff. And yeah, but yeah, the whole experience recording there, it was very last minute. I only found out like a week ahead of time that they opened up a spot for us, and it was kind of like, okay, there's an opening, do you want to take it? I'm like, yes. And so yeah, within a week I was on a plane over to London, and yeah, it was just an incredible experience. I didn't know what to expect. I feel like I didn't prepare like mentally and emotionally for the experience, because I just got there and I was still kind of I was jet lagged, and I'm in a whirlwind of like, oh my goodness, I literally just flew in yesterday and I have to be at the studio, and where do I go? And then I think it was about a couple hours into the session where I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, some pretty amazing people have recorded here and I'm sitting here. Yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Yeah. Did you go on the zebra crossing? Did you get the pose?
I did. I have
Yes.
a nice little video of me going across. That was hard though. It's so busy. I had no idea how many tourists hang out outside of Abbey Road, and so I had to wait, like literally wait 10 minutes for my turn to get a picture going across the sidewalk right there.
Yeah, that's what it was like when I was there. But I feel like I should explain the stealing a mug thing that I said.
Yes,
because when I recorded there with Decca for my first album, there wasn't a shop. And so they said, oh yeah, people steal mugs all the time because you want to take a memento. So I got a yellow one and a grey one.
Oh, okay.
And apparently they just kept having a regular order of mugs because people would always steal them. So that was kind of like an acceptable thing to do. So yeah, I would have loved a shop though. I'd love to get all the memorabilia and all of the different things. That would be amazing. I'd kit out my studio room. But yeah, with the zebra crossing, there was a guy he'd said he'd waited his whole life to be able to go onto that zebra crossing and get that picture. And he was ecstatic. He was like just in front of me in the line of people queuing, and the taxi drivers were getting so annoyed, like properly honking their horns.
I'm sure they do. They see it all the time. That's amazing. Another thing that was really funny is, so we got there quite early in the morning and there was nobody there. And then at the end of the day, when we left the studio, I think it was like 5 or 6 p.m., we stepped out of the front door and there's all these tourists taking pictures, and they all just stopped and looked at us to see if we were somebody famous. And I'm like, because I'm not, I'm just like, I'm just a pianist from the US. I'm nobody famous. But they were, I kind of felt like everyone was like, just like waiting for someone to come out the door, and we walked out and they're like, oh, wait, who's this? They were taking pictures, but they had no idea like who we were.
But they should know who you are, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, when they're like expecting somebody famous, like, and you walk out, you kind of go, well, yeah, but you are. You're amazing, and you've got such a... Sorry?
I said, yes, let's just act the part. Act all diva on the steps of Abbey Road.
But that's my point, is that you are the part. Like, you've got such a great, amazing fan base that love you. And if those people at Abbey Road haven't heard of you, well, they should. They should look you up right now. They should. I so admire all of the stuff that you've done. And
thank you.
Even with 3 kids, you've managed to achieve so much. Like, 3 kids must be a lot on your plate, a lot to handle. And then I guess during lockdown and COVID and everything, you've been homeschooling. I think I saw on your Facebook page. Yeah, and then to have a full career and release how many albums now?
I have 6.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge juggling act, and it's so funny because doing my own music, I work from home anyway, and my husband is my partner in my music, and so we both have worked at home I've been doing what I do for about 12 or 13 years, but my husband, he's only been a partner in my music since 2014. And so for the past 6 years, we've worked home together. And we are just busy all the time because, as you know, as an independent artist, you're not just gleefully writing music, you're doing the whole business side of everything, and you're shipping CDs, and you're transcribing, and you're doing promotion. I mean, there's so much to do. And yeah, with our kids at home, everything has just been like 3 times as busy with them here, because usually when they're at school, that's kind of our chance to get work done. And so they're out of the house all day. We have like an 8-hour block of time where we can get work done. But yeah, it's so funny because a lot of our friends who either, their kids are older and they're out of the house, or they don't have children, I think they think we are just bored out of our minds or something. And like, oh, you must have nothing to do. And like, oh my goodness. Because you know how there are so many people in quarantine right now that are going bat crazy because they're so bored at home. And we're just literally like, oh my goodness, we are like so busy. We can't even get work done because it takes so much extra time just with the kids home. I'm not complaining. Like, I feel very lucky to do what I do, and I'm happy to have the kids home, especially during this whole COVID thing, because it makes me feel like we're all safe at home. But yeah, it's created a lot more work for us all.
Yeah, I can't imagine, because I've been always finding that no matter how busy I am, I feel like there's always something else that I should be doing for my career. So to juggle that and 3 kids as well, and be homeschooling them during COVID, like that's a crazy load of juggling balls in the air.
Oh yeah, I've definitely had a new appreciation for school teachers, because I am definitely not cut out to be a teacher from home. I mean, I admire all the parents out there who are doing that, but I'm like, I would never get any work done. Like, I literally couldn't do my music if I had to be a homeschool teacher. So yeah, thank you all the school teachers out there for what you do.
100%. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. No, I totally admire them. But talking about admiring people, I do, whenever I see a Facebook post from you, I can't help but admire your honesty and your openness. And I love that about your posts. And you really tell such personal, emotional stories. And I find your approach to social media really inspiring, because I'm always trying to be open and honest and not hide anything. But I think a lot of people feel like social media is a breach of privacy, whereas really it feels like it's a place to open up and find support that you need, and open up to people to find support for things. And I feel like that's how you approach it, which is a really healthy way. How do you feel about social media yourself? Because whenever I see your posts, I'm like, this woman tells a great story and I love what she's saying and I completely identify with what you're saying, and like, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. It is hard, isn't it? I go back and forth where sometimes I feel like social media is a great place to share my feelings and talk. And then there's other days where I don't want to have anything to do with social media at all. It is hard. I think there's definitely certain things that I do share and certain things that I don't. And yeah, it's just always trying to find a balance of what do I share and how much of it. But I do want to, I do feel like there's something to be said for being genuine with your audience. For example, I've been having a hard time with Facebook lately. I think a lot of people have during this whole thing. It seems to be not the most positive environment, if I can say that lightly. And I've been trying to figure out, how do I still use Facebook as a positive platform to share things, but not be impacted with all the negative. And
yeah,
I recently had to, on my personal page, I'm not talking about my music page, but on my personal page, I had to go through and scale down my friends list. And the reason I'm telling you this is because during this whole process, I've had several other musicians who have said, well, what you can do is create a Facebook just for your music. I'm talking about a personal page, a personal Facebook page for your music, and then one for just yourself, where you share all of your personal things. And I said, but that's like against the whole purpose of like my social media. If I created an account that was just to talk about music things and I never shared anything personal, that wouldn't feel genuine to me. I would feel like I was just pushing my music and just like promo. And so, yeah, I think for me lately, it's just been, how do I stay genuine and how do I still share my life and share like my feelings, but also protect myself and guard myself. And it's such a hard thing. It's something I'm always, as you probably are too, it's just, how do you navigate the whole social media world? But yeah, I think the more that we try to be just a light and be positive with our posts and be genuine, I think that's what people value the most, is just being genuine.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think social media has really brought that out in people, because as soon as you try and be somebody that you're not on these platforms, people can see it so quickly. They can see that it's not real. And I feel like if I'm trying to build friendships with people and trying to build relationships with people so that we can have conversations about music, and so that we can build sort of a relationship around music, then you just want to be genuine, because I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be, when you're trying to build a friendship with someone. That's just, you want to be open and be you, and then you hope that they're doing the same. And then you've got something that is, to use the word genuine again, you've got something that's genuine and that will last. And when you're trying to build a fan base in this social media world, that's just so important.
Yeah, it is. And it's so funny, because I think as musicians, we think when you get ready to post something about your music, you think that is what you're going to get more interaction on that post about your music than anything else, because that's what your followers are there to follow you for. But I've found completely the opposite, which is really funny to me, because I'll post something personal, or maybe I'll talk about something that I'm struggling with. And I think that it's just, people want to feel like they can identify with you. And I have found more interaction from people on personal posts than music posts, which is, it's funny to me. But
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. That was funny to me when I first looked at my stats. I thought, well, surely people are here to follow me with music stuff.
Right.
But then I was thinking, well, I think it was a podcast I was listening to where they were saying that people, to turn it into a sort of like a business thing, people buy from brands that they know and trust. And so I just think that's because they kind of, when you can get to know somebody and you can build that trust with them, then it's about more than just what you're promoting and what you do. It's about the stories that make you who you are. And that's what builds those lasting connections. So I think when I listened to that podcast, that did kind of make sense. Like, and people want to know more about the artists that they really like as well. They want to know what happens behind the music. They want to kind of understand where the music and the inspiration comes from. So the idea that people would want to know more about your life rather than just your music, it kind of makes sense to me now.
Yeah. And it's been something, again, like it's hard to know like how to juggle what I post sometimes because I do have a family. And so this was years ago, but I have a fellow singer friend who at one point she was under a management company and they had her basically gave her the advice, like, don't ever post about your family, something about the fact that it took away from her music career and it made her seem like less star factor, I suppose, made her look older. Right. And I thought it was the craziest thing because why would you hide that? I mean, I'm not trying to hide the fact that I have children. And since then I know she's done away with that advice and she's just completely 100% herself, which is great. But yeah, I think that in this industry, it's important to share, especially as a woman in the industry, how you can still have a family and children, but you can still have an amazing career, and it shouldn't take away from that. Because I think I don't know, a lot of women that I've talked to have said, well, I don't know how to do it all. I don't know how you can do everything. And I think it's really important to just, at least for me, it's important to share on my social media how I am juggling different things, because it's not perfect. There's definitely, I mean, this whole quarantine thing has been hard. I haven't gotten too much music done. I have gotten several things done, but not as much as I normally would, just because I am juggling a lot. And so I think it's about like not trying to make your life look perfect and just share your struggles as well as your successes.
Yeah, it helps people know that they're not alone in the struggle.
Yeah.
Do you have any good bits of advice for people out there who are musicians trying to be full-time musicians and got a family?
My biggest advice is just a mindset to remember that you can do it all. You just can't do it all at once. So every day, not trying to make don't feel bad if every day you're not doing everything on your checklist. There's no possible way to ever. I mean, I listened to one of your podcasts. You were talking with Uriel, who I'm friends with as well, and you were talking about how you felt like you weren't getting everything on your checklist done every day. I think it's just important for everyone to remember you're never going to get everything done. There's always going to be something to do. You can do it all. You just can't do it all at the same time. So don't stress yourself. Take one day at a time.
I think I know the bit you're referencing, because I think I was talking to a musician online, and she said that she has to think to herself, well, the list will never be complete because there's always something else that you could be doing. So how do you want to live your life with this incomplete checklist? And I thought that was good.
Yeah, I liked how she said that.
It stuck with me. It has, because yeah, like I said to you earlier on in this podcast, I always feel like there's something else I should be doing all the time. But I really think that what you've built up is incredible, because you've given yourself such a stable base with music as your full-time career. And it's mainly online based, because you've been so helpful for me. We've had a couple of chats now during this COVID period where I've been going, all my live gigs are cancelled. What shall I do? Oh my goodness, having a bit of a panic. So thank you for being there for me. I really appreciate it. Because you've built such amazing online presence. I mean, your YouTube channel is amazing. All your videos that you make, your Pandora and Spotify, and your Patreon, those things that you've got are just, they're so well built, and they are so appreciated by your fan base as well. It's just amazing what you've done there. Can you sort of talk us through your feelings of the online stuff, like how you first started building that and what techniques you've been using to really maintain it?
Some of it has been purely accidental, and others I've purposely, worked really hard to build. But it all started back when I had my first baby, and I used to be a classical performer, and I did a lot of concerts, and then I started having kids, and that was part of my career. And I had a moment where I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I still do this, but juggle, motherhood and everything. And that's when I started my YouTube channel, because I thought, okay, if I can start making little videos and, different things like concerts online or something, people can still watch me, but I can do it from the comfort of my home, and I don't have to go out on tour.
When was this? Because this is very ahead of the times.
I don't know. It was probably like 2008 or 2009. I started my YouTube channel. But even at that time, I hadn't done like any official music videos or anything. It was just little impromptu performances from my living room, and actually they're quite embarrassing when I go back and look at them, because my video and editing skills have definitely improved since then. But I mean, it's the whole concept of, I can still share my music with the world, and I don't need to go on tour to do it. I don't need to have a big concert hall. And that's really where the whole mentality started from that. And in fact, last year I just went on my first solo tour. And so that was 10 years later. So yeah, because I think I started this YouTube thing in 2009. And so 2019 was when I did my first solo tour. So yeah, it's come full circle. But I don't know. It's just as far as the whole online presence, it's, like I said, some of it was accidental, like Pandora. That's one of my biggest money makers as far as online streaming income. But that was just because I got on when Pandora first started becoming a thing, and my music was just one of the first albums on there, and it's become big because it's been on there so long. But and then Patreon is something I've worked really, really hard to build. That was definitely, it still is. Patreon is a lot of work. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a patronage website. So you can build a team of supporters who are there to support your music or whatever projects you're doing, and they donate on a monthly basis. And that definitely is a lot of work, because I also reward all of the patrons for their patronage. And so it's a very much, it's a mutual relationship where they give and I give. But yeah, it's great. So
what have you offered for your Patreons? Because if you're doing this monthly, I guess that's a lot of different, because you get different tiers, don't you, where people can sign up for different things. So then you're constantly juggling the different things that different people have signed up for. So what kind of things do you offer on there that you're able to maintain on a monthly basis?
Yeah. Well, I've been on there for 3 years. And when I first started out, it's been something that's morphed into, I think what I have now is working well for me. But when I first started, I had rewards that took a lot of my time to do, and I was having to keep up on them. And excuse me, I finally got to the point where I have now tailored my tiers to where it's very automatic. And but every Christmas time I do go through and I do personal Christmas cards and handmade sheet music and gifts, and I do big packages and signed things, and I send them all out to the patrons. And so that's kind of my big yearly thing that I do. And then like my tour concert, I have a really good a video recording of my tour concert that was professional. And that's something that I have on one of my tiers so that people can watch the full concert if they sign up at a certain level. So, But yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting during this quarantine thing as well, because I thought, oh no, I'm going to lose like all my patrons during this, because, you know, people are hurting, and especially artists are hurting. Like you lost so many of your gigs, and theater actors and everyone is hurting. And it's been interesting because I've actually gotten more support during this, which blows my mind. It's like completely the opposite of what I thought would happen. But I think there are some really good people out there who want to support the arts, and they can see artists struggling and they want to, you know, help them out. So
that's amazing, and so generous as well. It shows that people out there are listening to our plight, I guess. Like that recently there's been the hashtag let the music play, just because I had to cancel all of my Christmas concerts that I'd organised for the end of the year, and when I do go back to touring, I don't know if the venues that I normally go to are still going to be there.
Oh my gosh, it's
absolutely horrible. No idea.
It's so sad.
So this let the music play thing, it's really nice that people are paying attention to that, and that they are, when they can, supporting the arts. And I think that is incredibly generous, because like you say, it's not really what you'd expect at this time, when so many people are losing their incomes and they've been furloughed and they don't have job security. So that is the opposite of what you'd expect. But I guess it goes to show just how much people love you.
Well, it's amazing, and I'm so flattered. It goes to show that there are some good people out there who want to support the arts. And if you think about what would this world be like without the arts, and we're experiencing a little bit of that now. You can't go to a Broadway show or go to the concerts you normally go to. And so I think unless things change within the next year, I think even a lot more people are going to wake up to, wow, I really miss the arts. What can I do to support it? So hopefully, you know, more people continue to realize that and support.
I hope you're right. But while we're talking about live music, I really would love to talk more about your tour, because I've seen a few of the videos that you've put up from it, and it looks amazing. Like, once again, you with the tech, like it's a full show with a screen and everything. I was so impressed.
Thank you. That was so much work. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, we did it all ourselves too. The only thing oh my gosh. And we didn't even know how much hard work it was going to be until we actually got out on the road and we did our first show. And afterwards we looked at each other and we're like, what have we gotten ourselves into? Because we booked 20 venues, and we thought, 2 hours to set up, 2 hours to take down, 2-hour show. So like 6 hours total. It took us 7 hours, the first concert, to just set up our concert. And we had scheduled everything with the same amount of time. And we just had this moment where we freaked out and making all these phone calls, like, we need help. We need to figure all this out. But yeah, and it took me 6 months to just prepare for the concert, because I did all of the audio production, and we hired a lighting specialist, but I did all the video and audio. It was just so much work. And then just the venue, booking venues and all the contracts and scheduling, and just, it's so much work. Yeah. But yeah, it turned out amazing. And as the concerts went on during the tour, it kept getting better and better and better. And by the it's so funny, because then by the last 20th show, you're like, oh yeah, I got this down. By the last show.
Yeah, I know that feeling. But yeah, there's so many things that you just don't expect you'd have to do. Like we've had to do health and safety forms for venues, and what's it called? There's like a form that you've got to fill in, that then kind of, where you anticipate what problems you could have with health and safety. But if you haven't been to this venue before and they're asking you to fill it out, you're like, well, I haven't been in your venue before, so I don't know what the problems are going to be.
I know, you're like, is there something I'm going to trip on? Well, how is your stage set up?
Exactly. So yeah, risk awareness, I think it's called, risk assessment form. So with, like, when I've been doing concerts a bit further up north, and I'm in Somerset in Taunton, it's a good few hours drive away. It's difficult to go around all of the venues to check them out before you do everything. But yeah, then you've got all the setting up of your PA equipment, all the tech, getting the sound check sorted. And
Yeah.
I always left what I thought would be more than enough time. And
Mhm.
every single concert, something would happen that would go wrong.
Oh, right.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like, you have no control over these things. Like, I remember I was doing a concert in Shrewsbury, where one of the instrumentalists that I booked left all their music behind. And so just before the concert, I was on my laptop printing out and taping sheet music, because they still hadn't arrived yet either, because there'd been a crash on the M6 motorway.
Oh,
So we hadn't been able to sound check with them. Like, what more could go wrong? Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're
wow,
constantly having to be adaptable and deal with everything right there on the spot. And when you're the one who's booked the venue and it's your show and you're the boss of it all, you can't focus on performing until you're about to walk out on that stage, because everybody's coming to you going, what do I do with the meet and greet people? Where are they meeting? Have you got snacks for them? And
yeah.
with
No,
every single question and every problem, everybody's coming to you and you're like, I need to warm up. I need to sound check. I need a wee. I haven't done that yet either.
I know. No, I think on our tour, no, I completely understand, because we had so many things going wrong as well. And I think that one of the most important things that I learned that we started making sure happened was that nobody bothered me before the performance. And so if they had questions, it was always, I mean, my husband is amazing. He would always step in and be like, please don't bother Jennifer. Like, ask me all the questions and we'll get it sorted out, but don't bother her. And because normally, like, before my tour, when I did concerts, I would allow, like, if friends were coming to my concert, I said, yeah, come backstage and come hang out with me backstage and we'll chit chat. But not on my tour. I started having specific rules of nobody's allowed to talk to me before the concert. And not to be like stuck up or snobby at all, but it was just, you're so busy, and it just, there's so many things you're trying to do when you're doing it all yourself. And literally it feels like down to the minute before you walk on stage, you're busy doing something. And when you have someone back there trying to just chit chat and you're like, oh, I can't deal with it. And so, yeah, we were very diligent about separating me from any outside stuff before I had to go out on stage, which was nice.
That's amazing. I'd love to be able to do that more. That would be amazing. No, that's so great. I think the only thing that we got, I say we because I'm also talking about the concerts that I did with Joanna Forrest, our Christmas at the Musicals show. We would get everything ready for meet and greet, rush to meet and greet, but then meet and greet was so lovely because basically you'd done everything that you could do by that point. There was nothing else that you could do because the show was going to start half an hour after meet and greet. Right. So it meant that as soon as we got there, you could sit down, have a nice cup of tea and a biscuit and a snack, and have really lovely conversation with really lovely people. And that was such a gift. So it just meant that I was able to go, right, everything else is going to have to wait now. I can't do anything else. I've just got to sit, have a nice cup of tea and talk to these nice people. And I loved it.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I did so nice. I did 2 meet and greets as well during 2 of my concerts. But even then it was like, okay, I have to be in a frame of mind to be able to relax and talk to everyone at the certain time. And so then you have to start your entire day earlier and make sure everything is prepped, and so that you actually can allot for a relaxation time, which is weird before a concert. But yeah, oh my gosh, is things going wrong though? I remember, like, so when I perform, I have a little, I by the way, on my tour, when I was on stage, I was running an entire mixer and 2 laptops and a tablet on stage while I was performing. And yeah. Well, there's a story behind that. My whole lighting show, it was supposed to be automatic, so I didn't have to touch anything during the concert. And the day before we left, the automatic system wasn't working. And so I literally had 1 hour to learn how to run it manually from stage as I'm performing. And it was crazy. And I did that my entire tour. But with that also came, like, so many more opportunities for things to go wrong. And so we actually on tour, we went and bought backups of certain pieces of equipment because they're so essential. If they broke, my whole show would have, like, not worked. And so, yeah, on our off days, we'd be in different audio stores, like picking up different pieces of equipment. And like one show, my inner ears weren't working. And so we had to pick up another inner ear system, which are not cheap. They're actually pretty expensive. And yeah, there's just, it's hard because you want to have like backups of everything, but then you're also like, oh, well, that's $1,000 piece of equipment that I have to go now buy a second pair of. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's interesting, and everything worked out in the end, but it's definitely a crazy adventure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's an understatement. But just to clarify for people that what in-ears are. So in-ear monitors
Oh,
are
yeah.
like, they're like headphones, so that you can hear what you need to hear in order to do your performance. So often when people go to live concerts, they'll see big speakers in the front of the stage that are pointing at the performer. That's a very similar thing, but you can also have that in your ears. And it also helps with hearing loss as well, because a lot of them are molded to the inside of your ears. So they block out all the external sound, so you can have a lower volume mix of what you want to hear in your ears, so that you can hear what you need, but your hearing's not going to be damaged for years and years and years to come. So they're kind of like a posh version of headphones.
Right. Yeah. And for my music, I have all of my orchestra tracks that I perform with as well. And so if I'm sitting at the piano, and it's such a hard thing because when you're at the piano, I have the orchestra in my ear, and there's like so many different things I'm trying to hear in my ear, and it's so hard because I've got my orchestra coming in, I've got my click tracks. So if I have to start on beat 1, I'll have a count in of like 1, 2, 3, 4, go. So I know that I'll come in right in with the music. And I have my piano mics routed, so I'm hearing myself play into the earphones. And then I also have the audience mic'd, because if I didn't have the audience mic'd, they'd be talking to me, because I do talk with the audience several times during my show, and I wouldn't be able to hear anything they were saying if I wasn't also getting the audience mic'd. And so it's just, yeah, those are so important to have when you're on stage. I literally couldn't perform without them. And so when they're not working properly, it's like, ah.
But it's having to deal with all of that and then doing all the lighting as well. I mean, when you first said that, I had to stop myself. Like, I swear word wanted to come out. I was like, holy moly, that's mental. Because I can't imagine like having to deal with all of that yourself as a performer and how much concentration you need. Have you got like a couple of brains in your head that are able to like focus on the different things at once?
Well, I will say that my first show on the tour, I was just freaking out because like I said, like I didn't realize I was going to have to do all this manually from stage until the day before. And so I just made sure when I was telling the audience, I'm like, okay, welcome to my very first show. Just so you know, this is going to be kind of a test run tonight. And they were great. They were so patient. And at the end of the night, I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I messed up so many things tonight. But afterwards, when I talked to all the people, like no one ever mentioned a single thing about like my technical mishaps. Everyone was just like, some people were in tears and they were just like so happy to like watch and hear the music. And so everything that I thought in my mind was going wrong, like they didn't even notice. And it just makes you realize, okay, it's not about the lights and everything. It's really about the music, and that's what people are there for.
But also they hadn't seen your show before. I mean, obviously you'd crafted
Right.
it, you wanted it to be perfect because you want to always do your best, but they hadn't seen that before. So just the fact that they're there and they're getting that raw live experience is just, that's so moving for people. And I feel like when I'm performing live as a singer, if I focus really hard on getting everything completely bang on all the time, although it's technically correct, you lose so much of the raw live emotion of the song that it then doesn't make it as good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. It's so much more about the emotion. And I think that's something that you actually need. You have to learn as a seasoned performer, because when I think for a lot of people, you know how it is when you go to see someone perform and you can tell that their performance is, they're concentrating on getting everything perfect. And it's a technical performance. And then you go and watch someone perform where you're just like, oh, you're holding back tears, and you can tell that performer is really into their music. And that's the difference. I think it takes a lot as a performer to learn to do that as well, because I think there's yeah, you're just like, I know when I'm on stage, I'm juggling so much in my mind, like, oh, I need to remember to do this, I remember to say this, to push this button. But then there's a moment where you're like, you know what, just let it go. And you can tell yourself when you're connecting with the music and the audience, and you're letting go and just being present in the moment of the music.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think how you feel about a concert does depend on the situation as well. Because I remember when I first started out on cruise liners,
Mm-hmm.
I'd go out and I'd do my first show for a company. And I'd be the most nervous I've ever been, because the cruise director would see my show and then write a whole few pages of notes about it and send it back to my agent. And you're so conscious about the fact that if this show doesn't go right, then you could be screwed, because you might not get another show with that company. But I did have one show where something went wrong with the audio that wasn't my fault. And so when things go wrong, it's then not the fact that it's gone wrong, but it's how you deal with it. And so as soon as you've got that kind of honesty on stage with the audience, going back to honesty and being genuine, they're just behind you, because they know that there's nothing you can do about it from where you are. You're a performer on the stage. If somebody in the sound booth behind you, all the way in the back of the theatre, hasn't turned your microphone on, which was what happened, then there's nothing you can do about it. So I just said something like, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you know that this is a live show. Things like that happen. You're here for a live experience, and now that the microphone's working, for those of you who are not in the front row, this is feeling good, or whatever song it was that I was singing. But you make a joke of it, and you just go, well, this is how you know it's live. And the audience, they get behind you, I feel like. So like when you were doing your first show and you went, well, this is the first show, I've got all of this new kit, all this new stuff, I really want to make sure that I bring you the perfect show, but it is the first one. People are then like, go on girl, you can do it. You know what I mean? They're behind you because you've been honest with them, and you've shown vulnerability. And as soon as you do that, people are like, this person's a real person. Isn't this girl nice? Right, let's go, let's see a good concert. And they love you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. People want to get behind the underdog.
But it's also when you're just being truly open and honest with somebody about it as well. I think they appreciate that.
I had a show on my tour where it was in San Diego, and it was one of my concerts on tour where the tickets weren't selling very well, and it was because Comic-Con was the same weekend, and even my friends who were coming to the concerts, they were there for Comic-Con. And so I was and all the hotels in the whole city were booked for Comic-Con. And so, and they warned me of this, that Comic-Con is the same weekend as your concerts. And I'm like, oh, it's fine, because like, I don't think the same people are going to attend Comic-Con as my concert, and all these different things. Well, as it turned out, it was a concert where we hadn't sold very many tickets. And then right before the show, all of the lighting in the theater just went crazy. And so the house lights, we couldn't get the house lights to turn off. And so the whole audience was lit and the stage was dark. So the complete opposite of how it should have been. And we actually
started the audience performing skits for you instead, so you can watch them.
And I remember just like we were working with the stage manager, who apparently like she couldn't get anything to work right. Nothing was going right. And so it was already 5 minutes past when we were supposed to start, and I just had to start the show. And I walked out and I made a joke about how I was going to really get to enjoy the audience tonight because I could see everyone so well. But I remember that was one of my hardest concerts, and I really had to put on a brave face because we hadn't sold very many tickets for that show. And so when you're up on stage, it's one thing if the audience is completely dark, so you can't see how many people are out there. But then when it's fully lit and you know that the tickets didn't sell as well as you hoped, and so you can literally see all of the empty seats in the audience, that was one of the hardest concerts I had to do. And I just remember backstage, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, you know what? There are people out there who like flew in from other places to see this concert, and maybe the house lights are on and the stage lights aren't on and everything is crazy tonight, but I'm going to do my best to give them the best show. And it's all about making sure each person that did attend walked away feeling like you were performing just for them, and you do your best anyway, and you put on the best show that you can, no matter what the circumstance.
Yes, 100%. That's completely how I feel, because I think as performers, we've all done shows where you'd rather there were a few more people in the audience, but there are so many things about that are so completely out of your control. So yeah, as long as you give those people in the audience the best show that you can give them, then you're right, it's like you're giving them a show just for them. And in some ways, I found that my smaller gigs have almost been more special, more intimate, because you're able to have more of a connection with the people that are there. You're able to sort of connect with them more, and I kind of like being able to see the audience when I perform, because I like looking out and trying to get some eye contact, and just make people feel like, I see you. I'm so grateful that you're here. I just, and have that connection. So I have found that some of my smaller gigs that I've performed at have been some of the most memorable.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, there's a definite energy, a different energy in the room than when you're performing to a really big concert hall.
Yeah, which can also be a great energy as well, but for different reasons.
Yeah,
because you've got more people there who are bringing the energy up, and it's a whole different experience, isn't it? Different venues.
Yeah.
But you've experienced so many different venues. I mean, I love the videos of you performing with a whole full orchestra in concert halls. Like, that is amazing.
Oh, yeah, that's just incredible. I don't think I ever get over that kind of experience, because as a classical performer growing up, as a pianist especially, like, one of the most amazing opportunities that you can get is to do a concerto with an orchestra, because you get to be the soloist and they're backing you up. And I've done concertos with orchestras when I was doing classical, and it's a great honor, and not every performer gets to do something like that, to be a soloist with an orchestra. And I remember the first time that I performed one of my own original songs on stage in a concert with a full symphony orchestra, and it was something I never thought would happen. Just, I mean, this is on a whole completely different topic, but just transitioning from a classical performer to writing my own music, but being in that same classical environment, it's very intimidating, but also very rewarding, because you're like, okay, I'm playing in front of a bunch of classical people, but it's my own original music, and this is very strange, but also amazing. But yeah, I still don't get over that. It's incredible.
Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. I mean, I haven't ever been able to compose something for orchestra, so like, you're already like light years ahead of me there anyway. But when musicians are picked to play with an orchestra, it's because they are the best of the best. They are incredible. So then to know that your music is being played by people who are the best at what they do, that can be, I imagine that is quite intimidating, because they would have played some of the world's best music, and here you are with your humble composition going, this is what I did. And it must feel so scary, but because your compositions are amazing and your orchestrations are amazing, I feel like you can have great confidence going up to them going, this is what I did, I'm really proud of it, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, no, I definitely get those feelings too, where it's like, okay, I'm not Mozart or Beethoven, but here you go.
No, you're the modern version.
Yeah, right. No,
I've
been so lucky. I've performed a lot with an orchestra here in Seattle called the Ensign Symphony and Chorus, and we've also collaborated. They've sung on my Christmas album. The choir sang on that, and then I had some of the players perform on, so the brass and the woodwinds, and some of the strings were from that orchestra on The Fire Within, and they've just been amazing to work with. And so I've been able to perform live with them at Benaroya Hall several times, and I think it adds to it so much more when you develop friendships with the people who are performing, and so you get up there on stage and it just feels like a big party, and everyone's having a good time, and it's a great energy.
Yeah, I got to experience that at the beginning of my career before Shine came out. So before my debut album Shine came out, I was put on tour with Russell Watson, who's an English tenor. And he had a full orchestra come around with him, and I was on the tour bus with them, being shuttled around to each of the venues. And it was so nice for me at that point in my career to know that I had friends on stage, because up until that point, the largest audience that I had performed to live was probably a few people in a local pub singing rock music.
Oh my God. What a difference. Usually,
yeah. So because it was so I grew up singing rock music with my mum at karaoke's at pubs in England, and then when I went over to China and did the TV show over there, there was no live studio audience. It was only cameras, so you couldn't see anyone. And then I got back to England and started making the record with Decca, and so the first concerts I was put into was then to Russell's audience, where there were like 2,000-3,000 people in the theatre every night, and I was terrified.
Oh my goodness, I would have been freaking out. Yeah, you must have been so nervous, but so excited too.
I was, seriously nervous. And Russell was great. Like, he taught me so much about performing live, because he's a proper expert. And his audience was so lovely and so accepting of me, which I still appreciate to this day, because some of them, I'm still in touch with a lot of them, and they're wonderful people. But yeah, it was the most terrifying thing. And then it was on that tour that I was in the Royal Albert Hall with him for his comeback, Royal Albert Hall, and they were filming it for the DVD, and I think that is the most nervous I've ever been in my life. I was like backstage sort of trying not to cry from the nerves, because like my makeup would run down my face. But like, that was just like deep end, chuck you in the deep end. And I learnt so much from that. But then to have those people on stage with me, it made me feel like I had a safety net, even though they were throwing me in the deep end of stuff. It made me feel like I had a safety net of people who would catch me if anything went wrong. And something did go wrong. Thankfully not at the Royal Albert Hall. Doing the DVD. But it was, I think it was quite early on in the tour, where I introduced the song I was going to be singing, and then nothing happened. And I turned around and looked at the musical director, who looked panicked. And it turned out that some of the orchestra had one song, and part of the other half of the orchestra had another song, so they didn't have the sheet music for the same song. Oh
my gosh.
And it was Robert Emery, who he's the orchestrator and producer of Jamie Lonsdale's album that just came out that I was on. So we're still great friends now. He properly saved me at that point. He was like, that was when I learned the line, this is how you know it's live. He gifted that to me, because he turned around and said, ladies and gentlemen, slight technical hitch. This is how you know it's live. And I was like, that is great. I'm going to use that line from now on. Thankfully, they got the music quickly and we could carry on with the show, but he taught me so much about how to deal with technical problems, and he had my back there as well, because that was the first time anything like that had ever happened to me. So I was turning around looking at him with panic, going, what do we do now?
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, to have friends on stage with you, amazing feeling. Yeah
for sure.
Because I needed them. I so totally needed them at that point. It was the stress is coming back to me. I feel like I've got rosy cheeks already. I'm like I'm getting all flushed, going, remembering the experience. Goodness me.
Oh my gosh.
But you got to learn your training, haven't you? You've got to learn all these things somehow, and the only way is through experience, isn't it?
Yeah, and how you, like you mentioned, like how you handle on stage is you just have to roll with it, and the audience appreciates a good joke, and hopefully most of them are going to be forgiving. So
yeah, exactly, and they were, which was really nice as well. But are you thinking about potentially doing a tour again when all this COVID stuff is over? Do you think you'll get back out on the road?
So this year we were talking about going. So to back up, my tour last year, I only did the western side of the United States. And so we never got to the eastern side. And so that was kind of the plan this year, is this fall we were trying to get some venues tentatively set up to do an East Coast tour, but that obviously didn't end up happening. But I don't know, I've been having all these moments of aha lately, because there's several things I was trying to do this year that didn't work out, or just different opportunities that didn't work out. And now that all this pandemic stuff happened, it's like, oh, that's why it didn't work out. Like, I'm so glad it didn't work out, because I would have put all this massive time and effort into doing something that would have been canceled anyway. So I don't know. I mean, it's not great that things didn't happen and things got canceled, but at the same time, I feel very grateful that I didn't waste a lot of my energy on something that didn't work out anyway. So
Yeah, I
yeah, so
completely understand.
yeah. So as of right now, I am not planning any tours or anything, just because, like you said, everything is so, like, even the venues aren't sure when things will get back to normal anyway. So we'll see.
But even though it was stressful, it was an experience that you'd potentially want to put yourself through again. Is that?
Yeah, and I definitely think I would know the key people that I would hire this time to make things easier on us. So that was a good learning experience, like a venue booker, for sure. That was so much work, and I'm like, I would gladly pay someone to do that for us.
Yes, I completely feel you there. I completely do. So with all of this pandemic stuff, now that it has hit us, it's hit us with a good punch in the face. Now that this has come along, what are you sort of seeing for the future of your music? What are you trying to focus on when you get a bit of time?
So I still have a few collaborative projects I'm finishing up this year. During the first part of this year, I recorded on a couple of artist projects, so one of them has released. Felicia Ferreira, she's a singer from France. I played violin on her album, and then I played piano on another artist's album, but I don't think she's announced it yet, so I can't say anything.
Fair
but
enough.
That was it's an amazing song. I can't wait till she finally announces it. And then I just have a few projects that I've agreed to do for various things, but I do have plans to get back into writing some of my own music. I haven't written anything new since my last album, which I released in the last part of 2018. So it's been about a year and a half. I've had a bit of a writer's block, and then this whole pandemic thing, I think just, I don't know, I've just been stressed and I haven't been able to concentrate on being creative as much. I have put out a lot of piano tutorials and YouTube videos, but as far as like writing new material, I just haven't been in a headspace for that until now. And so I actually do have a lot of ideas and things that I am excited to get started to work on, but we're actually going on vacation. There's always something, like we're going on vacation, and but I will say, so my best friend Kimberly Starkey, she's the rogue pianist. She was in my video for The Fire Within. She's the other piano player. She's coming up this summer, at the end of the summer, and we are going to be writing another song together, and we're going to film a music video as well. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited already. I can't wait to hear this and see the video. Because your videos are amazing. They're like short film masterpieces.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
They really are amazing. You must put, oh gosh, I can't imagine how much time and effort goes into those.
Yeah, well actually, so that's what my Patreon goes towards, is just video making. I do all of my own music stuff, but there's making videos is a whole other art form that I just love so much. My brain goes crazy with ideas. Like I hear music and I'm like, oh my goodness, I could just like put a piano in the middle of a field of flowers, and I get all these visual ideas. And so so my husband does cinematography for some of my more simple videos, like at home or if we're just going out in the outdoors. But the bigger scale videos, like The Fire Within, I have a really amazing director and crew in LA, Ryan McNeil, and he's directed most of those bigger videos for me, and he's just amazing. So
yeah. That video for The Fire Within was incredible. I can't imagine how you were feeling playing the piano and seeing the flames come up at the were you at any point kind of a bit worried, like thinking I really should run away, like right now?
Oh, I did. Yeah. No, I did run away. No, we had a very short window of time. I think we had about 5 minutes of burn time on the piano before it was going to get out of control. And
Only I've had 5 minutes.
People on the video have commented, "Oh, I wonder if it's special effects or she's not really playing a burning piano." And I'm like, "Oh yes, I was." And like, I didn't have any protective gear on. That's literally me at the piano with flames coming out. But it was really windy.
Check you out, you stunt woman.
Yeah, it was. I felt actually really empowered doing that. It was really, really fun. But yeah, there was a moment where the flames were starting to get bigger and it was hot too. My biggest worry actually was the flames when it would hit the piano strings, they would pop. And I didn't want a string to pop in my face. And so I was just kind of like, like some of the behind the scenes footage, I'm like, like I'm scared. It's gonna hit my face. But
gosh, I can understand why you were scared. But I guess you didn't anticipate being scared about what people would say afterwards, because I feel like we should say that and specify strongly, this piano was very broken. Broken. And I felt like you did a good job of saying that, and yet there were still people online going, "Can't believe she's burning a piano," and getting up on their high horses about it. I felt so sorry for you. Like, you're creating amazing art. You couldn't use this piano anymore. Like, have some common sense, people.
Right. No, it was a really old, very, very old and very broken piano. And I'd used it as a stunt piano on several videos. And it had broken so badly that it wasn't repairable. And so, there was a point where I was like, well, I'm going to have to like either just dump it or get rid of it because I can't use it anymore. And people were asking me like, "Oh, are you going to turn it into a garden art piece or a bookshelf or something?" And I was like, "No, I think I'm actually going to set it on fire and play it." and I did. But yeah, I did get some heat, and it was from an article that came out from Classic FM, and I think it was just poorly worded and people didn't know the backstory. And so they thought I was burning a really expensive, nice piano, and there, a lot of the classical crowd was not okay with that, which I understand. Like, I wouldn't want to burn a nice piano either, ever, but it definitely wasn't one. It wasn't that, and it's all good now.
Yeah, good. I can't believe how good your muscles must be, though. I mean, lugging a piano around, even a broken one's going to be really heavy. And like, this one has been in the middle of a forest and now in the desert. And like, how do you maneuver it in and out of those trees? You got some big burly men that come in.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and a very nice off-roading piano dolly.
Amazing. Yes. Off-road for the extreme version. For when you're doing your stunt woman stuff.
Yeah, no, pianos are heavy.
Yeah, have you got any more music videos planned for The Fire Within, do you think? Are you still going to make videos for that music, or do you think you'll save the Patreon fund for the new album that you're talking about?
No, there are several videos that I still want to do. It's just a matter of when we can film again with a crew. And I actually was supposed to film an ice skating video for a song off of my Christmas album. We were supposed to film in May with Alyssa Liu. She's a 2-time champion ice skater, world US champion, but we had to cancel that, obviously. And everything's so up in the air right now. But I mean, the short answer is yes. I have so many ideas and things I want to do. It's just a matter of when and how and everything.
Oh gosh, yeah, I remember all of the amazing ice skating stuff coming up when they were using your song for their amazing ice dances. And the woman who used it, didn't she do a few things for the first time in her run?
Yeah, so there's been a few different ice skaters. So Alyssa Liu, she's an American. She was the first American woman to do a quad lutz, which was a big deal. So 4 spins around.
Whoa.
And then last season, Rika Kihira from Japan, she was, I believe she was the first to do like 3 triple axels in a routine or something. I don't remember what it was, but
Gosh, you must be
yeah, it's
busy.
amazing to see. It's, you know, it's one thing to I don't know, this is a whole other topic, but as far as like music awards and things, I feel like there was a point in my life where I just wanted to, part of, you know, putting out music was, oh, I want to get the awards and the accolades to show that it deserved merit or something like that. And I'm so not in that mind frame anymore. I don't care about awards so much anymore. And it's become so much more of how people are experiencing my music, and that's the reward that I'm finding. So when I see an ice skater or someone who is doing something amazing like that to my music, it just, I don't know, it's a different feeling. And I feel like I'm to a point now in my career where I'm after the experiences, the emotional experiences of music, and that's what's rewarding for me.
Yeah, that's really great. I think that sounds like a very healthy way of looking at your career and what you want to achieve with it. But I completely understand the awards thing. I mean, when you've spent so much time and effort on something,
Yeah.
like sometimes I've felt very insecure about what I've created, even though I love it. And so I feel like I do need that validation from somebody else that, you know, it is actually good.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can put out something that you're really pleased with, and when you don't get the reaction that you want, it doesn't actually mean that it's not good. It just
Mm-hmm.
means that it's not that person's cup of tea. And you could do the best thing that you could ever put out, the best concert you could ever do, and you're never going to be everybody's cup of tea. But it takes a long time to realize that. So when you get that, it's just so nerve-wracking putting out something that you've poured your heart and your soul into,
Yeah.
and just waiting for people to tell you what they think of it. That's really scary. So I completely understand, like going after these awards and submitting your music for it,
Mm-hmm.
to get that validation. But you've like well and truly had that, because you've had so many awards and nominations and like very glittering, and that must feel so great as well, because to pour your heart and your soul into something and have that validation back going, yeah, it is really good. We do love it.
Yeah, it's always nice to get awards, but I mean, I think it's just important to not make music to get awards. I see a lot of musicians doing that, where they specifically will create music because they want to get a specific award, and I think that's the wrong idea. And yeah, it's nice to get the validation, but it's not what music should be about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's actually this whole COVID situation that's made me think about what I'd like to have going forward. And I think it's very similar to what you've said, where I'm going to try and craft the next things that I create, in a way that enables me to do more of the stuff that I love. Because I say to people so often that singing is actually one of the things I get to do least, because there are so many other business admin things, like with the tours, for example. I'm organizing them over a year in advance,
Yeah.
because it just takes so much time and effort and energy, and so I have to squeeze in time to practice for the tour when I'm organizing it, because there are so many other things going on, and that makes me sad. So I think going forward, I'd really like to try and create more of those experiences that I really want to have, like you're saying, so that I actually get to enjoy it a bit more,
Yeah.
and not worry about so many things going on.
That is the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is though, it's easier said than done, and I think it would be easier if I still had my live stuff going on and had some money coming in. Then you'd kind of feel less worried about it. But one of the things I've been thinking of, going back to something that you said earlier, is trying to get back into writing. And I've very much felt like you recently, where I've just been so concerned about everything that's going on, and
Yeah.
the fact that all my live income has vanished, that I have not been in that headspace. And I've found that the more time that's gone by, the more afraid I get of starting and to try and create something again. So I've been trying to be creative in other areas, like with my restoring my vintage dresses,
Yeah.
or I've been creating merchandise that I'm going to use for my next pre-order campaign that I'm actually hand painting.
Oh my goodness.
And so I've been enjoying being creative in that way. But
Yeah.
you said about sort of experiencing writer's block and not having that inspiration right now, and I completely know what you're saying. I'm just wondering if you've got any advice moving forward as to how I can get back into that sort of feeling. And because you're such an amazing writer and you write so many amazing things, I feel like I need to somehow not be afraid to start, but I don't know how to get to that point.
Yeah, I don't know that I have great advice for you, because I feel it's so personal to each person. And I can just tell you, just from my own experience, I think I too have been experiencing a fear, not like a fear, but just, I don't know. It's hard to put yourself out there. I think, and like you said, every project that we do is so personal to us, and we want it. It's like our little babies, and we want them to go off into the world and sprout wings and
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure too, because you want something to do well. You want your baby to do well, and you want everyone to love it just as much as you do. But the thing that I think I personally have realized just in the past couple months is getting back to my roots. And what I mean by that is, I remember when I released my very first album, I didn't know anything about the music world. I didn't know about the music industry. I didn't know about anything. I wrote music, and I thought, oh, I'll just record it and I'll make a CD. And I was very naive, I would say, but I made this album exactly how I wanted to make it. And I mean, albeit it's very humble compared to like these large orchestral albums that I'm doing now. But my point is, I remember such really good feelings of when I released that first album, of feeling of like, I'm doing this because it's exactly what I want to do, and I don't even care what anyone thinks, and I'm just putting it out there, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going for it. And I feel like as my career has progressed and I've gotten more into the music industry, you start to feel those pressures of, oh, well, is this good enough to win any awards? Or is this song good enough to go viral? Or how many views is this going to get on YouTube? And it's not that you're trying to be vain, or it's more, you just want to see your baby do well. And so I think for me, lately I've come to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm tired of thinking those thoughts. I don't want to write music for any of those reasons. I don't want to care what people think. I want to go back to my roots of how I felt when I released that first album, where I just worked really hard on something and I put it out to the world, and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And that alone has really sparked my creative juices in my head, because once you get rid of the fear and you get rid of worrying about what people are going to think about something you're creating, then it's like, I can just be myself and create exactly what I want to create. And it's very freeing. And I've felt so much inspiration lately once I've allowed my mind to get back into that mindset.
I'm so glad you've said that, because you're so right, and you've really made me feel inspired already. Because you're right. You create what we were saying about being your authentic self online. It's the same thing with music. And I think a lot of the greatest composers and performers have done what they really love. Mm. And that's come across so much, that they've found a crowd that just really love them for who they are. I mean, of course, sometimes you're going to get people who are polarized, some people who really love them and some people who really don't. Right. But then the people who really love them, then that's an amazing crowd that you've got there that are going to support you, and you're doing what you love. So that's going to come across when you perform it, and in your writing and in everything you do. So yeah, you're completely right. You've just joined the dots for me there. Of being genuine online and genuine in your music, and not worrying what people think of it, and not worrying what people think of you. Because I've always found that when I've got the odd comment online, I've gone, well, you don't know me. You don't know my experiences. You don't know my mind, or my feelings, or my worries, or my fears. How can you judge me with one comment on the internet? And I think I need to think a bit more like that when it comes to my own creations and my own music.
Yeah.
Because you're right, when I remember with Shine, 7 out of the 12 tracks on that album I co-wrote. And I had the same feeling as you on my debut album, like, I wrote these and I can't wait for the world to hear it. And that was the feeling that I had. So thank you. I'm going to go back to my roots and back to that free, just loving what I'm doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
you should. Yeah, I think that you'll find more creative juices flowing.
And maybe try and stop worrying about COVID so much and just go, well, like, I've got the time now, so I'm just going to put some aside and not worry about business admin for like at least an hour and actually write something. Yeah, well, on that freeing and inspiring note, I'm gonna go and make myself another cup of tea and then leave you to it, because I've taken up so much of your time. But thank you so much for being so generous with it and for giving us so much of your time and your stories and your inspiring nature. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This was so nice to chat with you, and good to see you again. We met in London when I was over there, and yeah, this was really, really nice. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I know we're going to be chatting again on here as well, because you just do so many cool, exciting things. We're just going to have to get like regular updates where you come back to update us all. But thank you so, so much, Jennifer Thomas, for joining me on the Mary-Jess Meets podcast. I am so grateful, and I will look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.